Hey, everybody out there, how's it going? Late start time tonight. Valentine's Day and all the hoopla that goes along with it. So we all needed to make sure Mr. Graham had his appropriate family time. It's
Yep.
mother-in-law's birthday as well, so got to do all that stuff too. So totally get it. And
And
of
happy
course,
birthday to her. She won't be listening to this, but
probably best she doesn't. Also, the fact that we're, of course, as we talked about last week, Mel and I popped for the old Vitter, so we don't want Mr. Graham in the studio with us, so we're going on the old Zoomy Zoom tonight. But next week we'll be back to normal.
yes, we will. And we were able to safely pass off 100 ml to me of this week's whiskey. So we are drinking the same thing, which you'll hear about shortly.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, producer Mel, radio, go ahead and bring us on in. Very good.
This is Alan with Toon Army Baltimore, a gooner and a toffee walk into a bar. Decided to do a shit football podcast. You're listening to the DU Football Show.
They had themselves a good week this week.
He's just getting a little big for his britches because they're actually winning games. First time they've won 3 in a row in how long?
I was gonna say it's been a minute, and also no Geckel tonight in studio. I'm sure he's pretty broken up, but we'll do that next week. We'll be all right. Let's go ahead and start the show.
Sounds good to me.
Born in the land of Bowie, Maryland. Bred to be a fan of fucking Everton. Punch you in the eye and drink your rye. Sam Houston.
Sam Houston?
Arsenal fans have another Sam. AKA the fucking Gooner Graham. Snub of my lord. Look straight in shorts. Sam Graham, hey.
Sam Graham.
Fucking United! Fucking United!
Hello and welcome to the DU Football Show, a completely biased recap of the English Premier League as told by two common American schmucks. I am your host, Sam Houston, and across the way from me is the newest addition to the cast of Jersey Boys, one Mr. Samuel Graham. Sammy, how you doing, brother?
I don't have enough abs for that.
I was going to call you Gene Vincent, but I figured you wouldn't get the reference, so I didn't want to bother with that one.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. My mind immediately went to the situation.
Bebop Alula.
Got it.
That's who sang that song. And, of course, he had a big old bouffant hair, kind of like yours, so.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
this.
much like the beard and Rob, we're going to have to start calling you the hairdo and Graham.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Oh, it's just so annoying. Would you
I
just hurry
know.
up?
One day I'll figure out how to actually, do it. So it's not just all over the fucking shop.
Or you'll just come back to your senses and do what you typically do and take a razor to the whole fucking mop.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
We're recording at DU Public House just outside the nation's capital. You can check us out on all podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, rate, review, and share with a footballing friend. Should you want to chat with us, there is many ways that you can. Mr. Graham, tell the good people how they can get in touch.
Absolutely. We are at DU Football Show on all of the social medias, dufootballshow@gmail.com to get in touch via email. There is also a pretty cool store and a Patreon that I'll tell you about a little bit later on.
Awesome. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Sam and myself both work in the wine and spirit industry and both share a deep, passionate love for all things distilled spirits. So as the red-blooded Americans we are, we vow to have a drink in our hand throughout this show and every single show. The train keeps a-rolling. We got ourselves an island whiskey without the E tonight, Mr. Graham. Why don't you tell us about it?
That's it. This is the Aaron single malt scotch. This is their Aaron Barrel Reserve. They said it's going to run you about $50. Clocks in at 86 proof. They gave it a 92 by the Whiskey Advocate Tasting Panel. Your review comes via David Savona for this one. Scotland has hundreds of islands, many of them familiar to Scotch lovers, but the one known as Aaron has flown beneath the radar. This sleeper single malt has a sublime aroma of bread dough that barely hints at the lively flavors that await in the glass, which include freshly shelled almonds, sweet berries, and clover honey, plus a toasty finish with a lovely, if not overly long, chocolate note. A, a balanced, elegant, and flavorful whiskey that's lively on the palate and a true bargain at only $50. Now, obviously, you're going to pay a little bit more than that once this list comes out. That's also relative. Again, I last week was pretty articulate about how the liquor industry works and quantity discounts and all that kind of stuff. So don't be surprised if this price varies anywhere between $50 and $70.
Yeah. Typically, I am not a fan of. In fact, I have not been a fan of anything from Aaron yet. That has now changed. This is a delightful fucking whiskey. Got a lot of.
Yeah, I used to sell it, and I didn't really care for Aaron, to be honest.
Honey dominates this whiskey. It's very, very sweet. There's a great golden color to it. A lot of times they just use American white oak, and they tend to be very pale. This has got a great golden color to it, so I imagine it probably sees more the hogshead, where it's the sherry butts and top with the American whiskey barrel around the outside. It's really fucking good. And I got it. I want to say I got it right around $55, $55.60. It was not terribly
I do
expensive.
get that chocolate note at the end. Some of the bready notes that they were talking about, I don't get. A little bit of nuttiness is definitely there. I would tend to agree with you. They're probably sherry butts because of that chocolate, because of that little bit of dark fruit, and the almond especially. It's very good. I'm actually pretty impressed with this one. It comes in at number 13, I think it is, right?
14, I believe.
I thought Bevan Tucker was 14.
Okay, you're right. Yep, 13 probably. My mistake. You got it. No, it says it at the top. I took a picture and sent it to you, and I don't want to go grab my magazine, so we're
yeah.
okay.
I think it's 13 because I'm pretty sure Bevan Tucker was 14. But it's very good. I'm actually quite impressed, and I'm not, again, as I said, agreed with you. I sold the damn thing, and I wasn't a huge fan of it.
It is, in fact, number 13. My apologies, good sir.
You're good. So this is
right
delightful. I'm really impressed with this. And if you are able to find a bottle, make sure you drink responsibly.
Yeah, this is piggybacking on what we talked about last week. This is exactly the kind of whiskey that this list was written for.
Correct.
Something relatively accessible that you would have probably never thought to buy before. And
exactly.
I can assure you, most island single malts still have some level of peat to them. This has got zero peat at all.
Correct.
Not even a ton of smokiness either. Like you said, that almond really kind of is the body. Like, it's more of a nuttiness to it than there would be a smoke to it. The barley really shines. This is if you're not a big single malt person, you haven't really drank single malts before, at $50 to $55, this is worth taking a flyer on. This is definitely worth taking a flyer on. You will not.
Yeah, for sure. And usually we turn to Speyside for that sort of introduction to Scotch idea.
Yeah, never an island.
But this one, I'm with you, kind of hits the nail on the head. There's no overwhelming, dominant, kind of attribute as we think of Islay with peat, as we think of the Highlands with kind of that brininess.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's kind of would be astringent to a new palate in this whiskey at all. And there's enough of those kind of sweeter notes in the honey and the other and the almonds that it's kind of welcoming. It's inviting to a new palate.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it, Mr. Graham. I'm going to go ahead and cheers myself with the bottle there. Very good.
There you go.
Oh, and by the way, I didn't show it off to everybody here watching on the live stream. I should probably show off that lovely bottle to people as you were talking about it. That's normally when I do my best fan of white. All right. You know what, Sam? We haven't checked in at the top of the table for a while, and now it's just two teams. Both of them got 3 points, ironically, off the teams from the bottom of the table. Manchester City 4, Norwich City 0, Liverpool 1, Burnley 0. City are deep, they're healthy, and they're rolling right now.
They are, but Norwich did make it difficult for City in this game. I mean, it took them all of, 40-odd minutes to score?
Yeah.
It's only up 1-0 at halftime. it was one-way traffic. I mean, City dominated the ball, dominated the chances, did everything right. But Norwich in the final third did make it difficult for them. They just couldn't take the chances, to be completely honest. Phil Foden made it 2-0 just after halftime. Then it took them again until 70 minutes for Raheem Sterling to score a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, and I was at the book for this one, actually. I was in the book for this one, and I put Phil Foden to score, City to win 3.5 goals in the game.
Nice.
On the over.
Very good.
And then I had the same thing without the Phil Foden caveat. And I hit both of them because of that 90th minute penalty. So brilliant.
Lovely. Very good. Congrats.
My $30 turned me back $111.
Attaboy. Yeah,
Get
you're
in.
very. I believe you proclaimed to everybody in the Drunken United FC group. Sorry, there's no more money to win at the casino. I believe you had stated.
Yes, I did say that because I also hit on blackjack and roulette. So I walked out of there with a net $320 profit.
Attaboy. Well, you already talked about Sterling's hat trick there. Let's turn our attention to Norwich real quick. They seem to be, fighting, which is good. But when does that fighting turn into desperation, and when does that desperation turn into not caring? Does Norwich have any chance of staying up?
I would tend to think not. I mean, we've been through this with them how many times? They just don't seem like they care enough to be able to stay up. They're putting in better performances than they did under Daniel Farke, and I just think that's because Dean Smith is harder. I mean, and I mean no real disrespect by this, but it's kind of difficult to take the man that looks like that with a voice that sounds like that seriously.
Very true.
It doesn't add up.
The topics.
Right? In your head, you're like, I expect one thing, you did something completely different,
The topics.
and it makes me laugh.
The topics.
Yeah. The topics.
We talked the topics.
But I mean, just listen to this. They're currently in 18th, right? They're 4 points behind Newcastle now. You have Watford that has a game in hand on them on 15 points, who look a little bit more organized under Roy Hodgson, but still can't finish the ball. And then you have Burnley dead last on 14 points, but they have 3 games in hand on Norwich. So that there's 9 points potentially up for grabs, would take them to 23 and out of the relegation zone as things stand currently, should everything else go their way. But here's the key. Here's the big thing. Burnley, minus 12 goal differential. Watford, minus 20. Newcastle, minus 19. Everton, minus 10. Leeds, minus 19. Brentford, minus 14. Even go all the way to Crystal Palace in 13th place, minus 3. Norwich, minus 36.
Jesus. Yeah.
And Watford, think of this too. Watford, minus 20. They hadn't kept a clean sheet in 2 seasons up until Roy Hodgson's first game in charge.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like 43 games or something ridiculous that they hadn't kept a clean sheet. So, those goals we talk about all the time, it's an old cliche. Those goals are worth an extra point, easy.
Yeah.
And if you got somebody like Burnley that should this new striker Weghorst, as we'll get on to, start figuring out how to put the ball in the back of the net, Burnley could be a bit of a force here in the second half of the season with that many games in hand. And if that comes to fruition, Norwich will very quickly find themselves completely done and dusted.
And that was exactly the comparison I was going to make as we transitioned into the next match. You look at both of these teams were at home. Burnley was at home. Norwich is at home. Norwich loses 4-0 to top of the league Man City. Burnley loses 1-0 to second place Liverpool. Liverpool is fully capable of putting 4 goals in the back of the net. Easily. And in this game, crazy enough, Burnley had more shots on target than Liverpool.
Yep.
The opportunities were there for Burnley to do exactly what they've been doing in getting a scrappy point. Now, at some point, they got to get some W's, and they're digging themselves too big of a hole, but they fucking seem to keep sticking around. But let's first talk Liverpool before we get too much into Burnley. Not Liverpool's best effort, but they find a way to win. They still keep figuring out ways to get W's.
Yeah, Allison was forced into a fair few saves in this game. And you'd like to think it's just going to take some time for Veghurst to settle before he starts taking at least one of the 43 chances he had. And for such a big man, actually runs pretty well. But the Liverpool look very leggy. They look very tired. I don't know what their training routines are, but they've had a bit of rotation. I know their two best players, period, both just had a international tournament where they both made it all the way to the final, and that's difficult to deal with, obviously. But the rest of the team, I mean, they're continue on in the cup competitions. They're keeping going, and Klopp hasn't rotated a huge amount in those games, and some of that's going to be on the manager. I mean, you have a squad for a reason. Fucking use it. You know, and it's I don't. They'll need a better performance next weekend if they're going to win. Liverpool, you'd imagine. I think they got a bit fortunate here, and Allison kind of dug them out of a bad situation once or twice.
Let me ask you one more question about Liverpool real quick before we get into Burnley. Do you think Liverpool has what it takes to catch City?
No. Not off the back of this performance, not based on this.
I tend to agree.
Do they in general? Yeah, sure. Of course they do. They're quality. But off the back of this performance, it does not fill me with confidence that they're going to chase City down.
Yeah. Good. So, going to ask you the same question about Burnley that I just asked you about Norwich. Does Burnley have any chance of staying up?
I think they have the best chance out of the three that are in the relegation zone right now.
Yeah.
The problem is, and that's despite, because they have so many games in hand, honestly. The problem is going to be you all, after having 21 shots in your opening 20 games of the season, had 21 shots yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Newcastle, obviously, 3 on the bounce now. Leeds, flashes that they're getting their shit together. It'd be nice if Patrick Bamford got fit. Brentford may have already done enough to have the points on the board because those 3 teams are so bad.
Likewise with Palace and Southampton. Who's going to fall back into the fight is the question. And I think that's what you're getting at if I'm following what you're laying down. And the answer is probably no one.
Who in that group from Newcastle in 17th up through probably Palace in 13th on 26 points. They're within 9 of Norwich.
Right.
What team there in Newcastle, Everton, Leeds, Brentford, Crystal Palace, and okay, go up to Villa in 27 points, or Leicester even in 27 points in 11th place. That's a 10-point gap from Norwich to Villa and Leicester, and a hell of a lot of goals.
Yeah, and then you look at teams.
Where are those 10 points going to come from?
And then even teams that are like 9th and 10th, like Southampton and Brighton, they're not gonna fall. No, they're not.
Where are those? That double-digit gap from Norwich to them is, I think, going to be way too much. Watford is going to need 12 points to catch to where it stands right now. They're going to have to make up a 12-point difference. You see Watford winning 4 games on the bounce?
Yeah. I could see Burnley finding themselves in 18th going down. That's
I would actually tend to agree with that, to be honest with you. I think these 3 are, which sucks because I'm pretty sure I had Burnley being safe in my preseason predictions.
Yeah.
But being in and amongst it, and I think I had him in 17th. But off the back of these last couple of performances, do you think Newcastle is dropping to Burnley 7 points?
Yeah.
No.
It's going to be very interesting.
And Burnley's games in hand aren't against easy opposition either necessarily. They're not gimmies.
What's also going to be funny, too, is that the bottom of the table, when they're normally fighting to stay alive, the middle of the table doesn't care anymore. Or when the top of the table is fighting to win a title, the middle of the table doesn't care anymore. But as far back as, Villa in 11th, I'd even dare say, Palace in 13th, like those teams in those areas, they still got a shot at fucking Europe. So the whole middle of the table is not going to roll over and die in March and April like they normally do. they're gonna have a fight. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's gonna be a fight. Yep.
There's so many games in hand across the table, and who plays when, and I mean Burnley may have a week where they have to play 4 fucking games in 7 days.
Yeah.
They may have to play every other day to be able to finish the season on time. But if you look at some of these teams that, so take it up to 5th, right? But it looks like the FA Cup will probably be won by somebody that's in a Champions League spot, as will the League Cup, obviously. So if you look through, say 7th is now going to get you Europa League, and 8th will be the Conference League again. Tottenham on the decline, it looks like, on 36 points. Palace, that's a 10-point gap I could see being made up.
Oh God, yeah.
On the back of these last few, take the season as a whole. The last 2 performances weren't great, but on the season as a whole, Crystal Palace, Villa make up a 9-point gap. Leicester, if they got their shit together and try to stop playing that high line, they could find themselves making up a 9-point gap. I don't see where some of these teams,
Hey.
Brighton, fucking only 3 points back from Tottenham.
I don't see this happening, but Everton got 3 games in hand. Those turn into wins. Suddenly Everton's in that fucking discussion. I don't think
Yeah,
I
then
think they're
you'd be
gonna end up being on
you'd be on 31 points. You'd be in 10th place.
Yeah.
Just a couple of points behind Brighton. That's exactly right. I mean, and only 5 points behind Tottenham. And at the same time, if they slide a couple here and there, like they have been,
Yeah.
to say that you can't get the Europa Conference McDonald's party pack.
Both Newcastle.
good.
It was very good. That's why I ended it. I was going to say something witty. I was like, nah, he covered it. We're all good there. Let's just go ahead and call that a segment. Both Newcastle and Leeds ran the daunting Kazoo Derby this week. One team came away with all 6 points. The other only came away with 1. Newcastle 1, Villa 0, Everton 3, Leeds 0. Magpies winners of 3 in a row. We've already said it a couple of fucking times that shit's coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one I think is more a much better performance than I'd say really even the Everton game was for Newcastle.
Right.
They dictated the pace of play. They were after it from the off. They looked switched on the entire time. Where I think Everton made a few more mistakes and kind of beat themselves to an extent.
Yeah, Villa didn't
against
screw
Newcastle.
up. Villa didn't screw up and lose this one. Newcastle found a way to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even John Joe Shelby was striking back, which we haven't seen for 8 years or so.
That was
Sicko wants to chime in.
that was the worst performance by Aston Villa this entire season.
Okay. I don't think it was their worst.
No,
I would say I'd say a few under
offensively,
Dino
yes, you
were
only
quite
managed
worse.
One shot on target from 11, but you held 2/3 possession. I mean, it's not for lack of trying necessarily. You had 11 overall shots. You had 2/3 of the ball. You just couldn't put anything away.
Oh, they were
Like I said,
shite.
it's not like you were just played like absolute dog shit and Newcastle dominated everything, but they worked really hard and they got 10 shots overall from their 1/3 possession. Now, again, just 2 on target. That's a damning statistic for Chris Wood. Glad they spent $35 million on him. Well done.
Yeah.
But overall the game was kind of lackluster because there wasn't a ton of action in the goal mouth. But I mean, both teams were giving it a proper go. I mean, they were both had a ton of effort. They both had a few chances, but ultimately Newcastle just snuck one in.
This is the game that frustrates you if you're a Villa fan
Okay.
because what happens is you play well enough to have probably gotten away with at least a point, if not all 3,
Yeah.
and it takes a moment of class on a free kick from Kieran Trippier to beat you. And you look at it as a team and you just go, one fucking time. Seriously, we
Yeah.
did everything right one fucking time, and it's in the back of the fucking net. And it was a picture-perfect free kick. I mean, again, like you said last week, why is James Ward-Prowse not on the England national team? Because this guy does exactly what he does, and he defends.
And he defends.
How that kick went through like 2 feet of space between 2 players perfectly and into the net. Oh my God, it was too fucking pretty.
Fucking did that in the
He's-
semifinal.
yeah,
He did that in the semifinal of the World Cup against Croatia. Like it just
Yep.
that's what this man does. You know, he's very
but he
good at it.
also, I mean, besides that, he just has a calming presence, right? That back line looks completely different now that he's had a couple run of games there.
Mhm.
They look relaxed. He's shouting at people, "Go here, do this." I mean, he won fucking La Liga for Christ's sake
Yeah.
with Atletico Madrid.
Yep.
You know, how many Englishmen win abroad in general? You know what I'm saying? So he's done good things. You know, member of the England squad, obviously in the World Cup and the Euros,
Mhm.
played very, very well. And he looks a leader on this team already, taking the captain armband off of John Joe Shelby. And now we're starting to see a situation, and this is what happens when you actually buy players, right? This is what happens when there's competition for places. Bruno Guimaraes, they spent 40-odd million on transfer deadline day. He gets a 38-minute or a 38-second cameo.
Yep. He only got a
Stoppage
cameo
time?
against Everton.
But Joe Willock and John Joe Shelby both tracking back, making tackles, passing the ball, getting in people's faces. John Joe Shelby's looks like he's lost 8 pounds since Eddie Howe showed up.
By the way, Taylor is watching us live, and he has already decided the name of this episode needs to be Action in the Goal Mouth.
Action in the goal mouth. I'm not against
Well.
that one.
Pretty sexy.
Yeah, it is pretty sexy.
He said that is the perfect Valentine's Day show title.
Now, Mr. Graham, something else that's very much worth mentioning is Newcastle, St. James Park, when it gets really buzzing and those supporters are behind their club, it's a hell of a fucking place to play. You could tell Everton were completely intimidated. And then
Oh, yeah.
Villa, particularly in the first half, were absolutely intimidated. They were very all over Villa, and you could tell the fans were making a difference. This is what I think keeps them out of dropping down. Is you bought some good quality players and you got a new coach in and there's a new style, but your fans are behind you every home match like that. You're world beaters. Anybody who walks in that building now is going to have a fucking hard time. And that's even with top of the table fucking teams, because you'd be amazed what
Absolutely.
happens. Be amazed what happens when the fans get behind you. And the fans get behind you.
Well, that's
whew,
I mean, we're about to talk about that in your game as well. I mean, there's a couple of buildings that are very intimidating, and a lot of them are those old style English grounds, right? So you have Goodison Park, you have Villa Park, you have the
St.
Sports
James.
Direct Arena or whatever it's called nowadays. You have even the Amex to an extent. I know it's a newer stadium, but even the Amex gets fucking bumping from time to time. And Selhurst Park has an amazing atmosphere,
Yeah.
I've been told, on a fair few occasions. So you have these old buildings that just, West Ham's old ground, the Bowling Ground, they had a fucking amazing atmosphere there. It was a hell of a time going to West Ham to play for a number of years until the Dildo Brothers fucked everything up.
Mhm.
But for a number of years, they had a very difficult time going to that stadium. And if you do enough as an owner to keep these fans on side, right, and have them behind the team, it really is like having a 12th man. It really is spurring the team on. And any player with a heartbeat has to respond to that.
Yep, agreed. We are going to let producer Mel off the hook tonight. It's going to get thrown in the back. She's going to have to take it next week. And the nice thing is it's a brand new bottle, too. So we're going to crack it for Mel. Even if you and I lose next week, she does the first shot.
I'm kind of pissed because Thursday I was feeling okay, but I didn't have the taste thing. You should just let me bank the shot then.
No. I like to think that you begging to bank the shot is what assured your team to lose.
Not wrong.
Could be. By the way, the free kick was deflected.
Okay. It was deflected a little? Okay.
Martinez didn't get to it. It hit off someone's knee and just took it up above his hand.
Heard.
Just saying.
Now, what we said about Everton in the midweek as they played Newcastle, about they looked exhausted and they looked overwhelmed, go ahead and apply that to Leeds in this match at Goodison. I
Yeah.
think Bielsa got it wrong, much like Frank got it wrong by putting pretty much the same damn team out there that played 3 days ago. And what happened? They found themselves with an injury early to, I mean, honestly, the glue of that team in Stuart Dallas. I mean, he's the Swiss Army knife. He gets put anywhere and he fixes problems and help gets things done. And you know, they after they made they had to make that substitution, they already looked lost. They really looked lost after that.
Well, and then after that, he takes off Rafinha at halftime.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
Very odd decision.
Because
And I haven't heard of any.
Rafinha didn't have a good first half. Like, you know,
I'm just saying, yeah, but he's your best player. I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody's going to change something, it's going to be him, especially when you don't have the talisman Stuart Dallas.
Yeah.
It seemed a strange move.
well, it also felt like Rodrigo was having
Marcelo Bielsa to make.
I thought Rodrigo had a much better first half than Rafinha did, and that's probably why he stuck with Rodrigo.
It could be, but they don't play the same position. You got to leave him out there. Rafinha's a flair player. He's going to go in and out of matches. That's how he operates. That's how it works.
Well, with it already being
I found it a strange move when you're 2-0 down to take off your best player.
Well,
I just thought it was very weird.
It was 2-0 down. Could have been 3 or 4-0 down at that point at the end of the first half. Maybe Bielsa was just like, you know what, I got to save his legs. You know, let me get him off.
It could be too. Absolutely could be.
But Everton looked good. Whew.
Great build up to the first goal.
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent football, back and forth, pinging the ball into feet, 1-2 touch. It was great. Seamus Coleman looks like he's practicing for the weigh-ins for his underground Irish boxing career once he retires. After he did the dead fish diving header into the back of the net, he stood up and looked like he wanted to fight all 42,000 people in Goodison Park. Not sure what that was about.
Yeah, the Irishman was a touch fired up.
Just be happy you scored, mate.
It was very nice.
You know,
it was very nice to hear 60 grand, Seamus Coleman, 60 grand. I say 60 grand, Seamus Coleman playing football the Everton way at the top of the lungs of the Goodison faithful. That was very lovely to hear. Haven't heard that one in a while.
As I said before, I mean, having had 21 shots in your last 15, 16 games total.
Yeah.
To have 21 shots overall and then putting 10 of them on target as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, you did get a bit healthier, right? DCL's back. Now he's had 3 games under his belt.
Mm-hmm.
Richarlison's back with 4 games under his belt. You got Decore back in for a bit. Iwobi's fit.
No, Decore's still hurt.
While Iwobi is obviously not great at finishing or putting the ball on target, he does work pretty hard. And people are worried about his pace. And you could tell. I mean, the Leeds players stepped off of him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he did with that was shank a wide open shot wide 3 yards. But
he also put all 3 of the goals. He was in the buildup and had a lot to do with it. And he had a very, very good game. Donny van de Beek played magnificent in the middle of the park. A little bit of a deeper role that he's really meant to play. I think. This is a point that our boy Ryan from the American Toffee Pod had brought up that I think is worth mentioning. That midfield setup of Alon and Van de Beek was very good, but against a stronger midfield team, that might get really exposed.
Well, what you would want ideally is Alon as your defensive midfielder. Decore is your box-to-box guy, and then Van der Beek pulling the strings.
Right, exactly.
Is really what you would want, which Van der Beek, by the way, in Dutch translates to of the brook.
Oh, I did not know of the brook.
Donnie of the brook. Yeah.
Very good. Here's a quick question for you. Since these two teams are kind of right about at the same spot on the table, who finishes higher at the end of the season?
I think you all do. I don't know that Leeds is going to be able to get it together. You thought when Patrick Bamford came back, Bielsa would kind of treat him with a bit of kid gloves, seeing how obvious it was they missed him in the first part of the season.
Mm-hmm. And
he didn't. Played in 2 games in a row, and he fucked his hamstring again or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was his hamstring.
And then, of course,
and they
Phillips.
still, again, they haven't looked the same without that point man.
Yeah. And James is hustled, but he's not a point man at the end of the day. He's a wing guy.
He's a winger. Yeah, he's too small. He can't hold the ball up.
Yeah.
It's just the way they play. They need somebody to play off of and run off of. And Dan James just isn't that guy. That's not his fault. It's no, it just is what it is.
Well, and
It's just he just doesn't possess that skill set. But Marcelo Bielsa only knows how to play one way, and that's going to get him in trouble.
well, unless you're Tyrone Mings, and then David James is a fucking giant. Rounding out the rest of the league, and so that happened. Manchester United 1, Southampton 1, Brentford 0, Palace 0, Brighton 2, Watford 0, Wolves 2, Spurs 0, Leicester City 2, West Ham 2. United are a fucking mess. They're a fucking mess.
They're just so wasteful. They had so many chances to go more than 1-0 up, and they just didn't. And they allowed Southampton at about 25, 28 minutes to start really growing into the game and getting a foothold.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point forward, I think Southampton were the better team.
Oh yeah. And here's something worth mentioning that it has been kind of overlooked as we're talking about how Southampton has been playing lately. Draw against City, comeback win against Tottenham, draw against United. That's their last 3 fucking matches.
Yeah.
Old Southampton, that's fucking 9 points lost. And with an ass whooping in there too.
Well, there's still the potential for next game to have 9 goals conceded.
Hey, we're playing them next. I like that. No, it's they are, for all the issues that they were having with Ralph and the club, and it seems like the players that he started to insert are doing better than the original players, and those players, a guy like Che Adams, starting to realize, oh shit, with a guy like Borgia around, I gotta prove my fucking worth. I gotta fight for my fucking spot. And that goal he scored was gorgeous, and it took him doing the extra work to put himself in the position to score that goal, which was something I would say, if I was a critic of Che Adams, is that he's been a touch lazy up there at times, where he just expects the ball to come to him, and you got to do it yourself. You got to put in the work.
Doesn't do that.
Yeah,
Brosia's a fucking wrecking ball.
Yeah.
He goes in there and makes shit happen.
Yeah, and that's all that does. And then I can't pronounce his name, El Hemeni, the Moroccan. Where's
Elmo.
Not for you. For the Saints.
Yeah, something like that.
Ken's gonna.
I can't think
us.
of it either. I'll try to pull it up.
No
quick.
problem. Ken's gonna lay into us about that one. But he has also made there be fighting for positions. Somebody like Theo Walcott's not starting games now. He's getting bit fucking roles because there's players battling for positions that are doing what the coach wants them to do.
El Yunusi.
El Yunusi, thank you very much. Yeah, those players are forcing more out of the rest of the team. It's making them.
And think about it, they haven't started Adam Armstrong in the last 2 or 3 games either. Nope. And that was one of their bigger signings of the summer, who announced himself with that amazing goal day one.
Yep.
So there's a lot of stuff going on at Southampton that is good. And Oriol Romeu is still looking like a fucking dominant midfielder from everything that he could have been at Chelsea. He's now showing at Southampton, and he's 30 years old, but I don't know why it took a midfielder this long to find his peak. Yeah. But he's playing very fucking well the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I was gonna say the last couple of seasons he's really, really gotten into his own. Maybe it was with Højbjerg leaving and giving him the job permanently is what got him to play better.
Could be, yeah, absolutely.
United, when it was Moyes, he wasn't ready for the spotlight. Van Gaal didn't understand English soccer. Mourinho, it was past his time. He was playing an archaic style. With the gym teacher, with Ole, it was he's a good motivator, but he's not a good tactician. So you get the tactician, and now you're saying we don't like the tactician's tactics. 10 years now. 10 fucking years now, United. Shut the fuck up. Stop making excuses. It's your fucking players who don't want to play football. End of fucking discussion. End of fucking discussion.
So I know that they are disappointed with Ralph Rangnick's stuff. His training methods apparently are archaic. He brought in Chris Armas, who for some of these players in the squad would say who. I know we're an American show primarily. We have listeners all over the world. Very appreciative of that. But Chris Armas was an American, played here for the U.S. men's national team, played in MLS, played a little bit in Europe, if I remember correctly. But he's even a little bit before my time. Some of the players have been comparing him to Ted Lasso, apparently, saying that he doesn't know what he's doing. And if you have somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo, who is such an influence, best player in the world, give or take Lionel Messi over the last decade, probably longer than that, to be honest. If he's not on side with it, that's going to filter through the rest of the team very, very, very quickly. And we discussed Ralph Rangnick being mostly an executive over the last 10 years, minus 2 jobs. His only trophy was getting a German second division team promoted to the Bundesliga. He's far from a proven winner. Now, he's credited with putting in place the systems that allow the German national team to be what it is. He's credited with being a wheeler and dealer, kind of like Monchi is at Sevilla as a technical director. And director of football operations kind of position where he's doing the wheeling and dealing and transfers and stuff. And he's got an eye for talent. But, I mean, it's 4-2-2-2. What is it? How many is that? 4?
Yeah. 4
I don't know.
2 2
I think that's only 8 players. No, that's 10.
Yeah.
2-2. Yeah, that's 6. This 4-2-2-2 is causing midfielders to get overloaded. The strikers, because the midfield's overloaded, have to either drop deep or they get isolated up front by themselves. And if they don't drop deep, they're not helping. And it just further overloads the midfield. Ultimately, I think he wants them to press from the front, but he's got a 34-year-old Cavani and a 35-year-old Ronaldo. Who's pressing? Now, it obviously doesn't help that one of the two members of that front line that could have potentially helped press ended up in prison for the time being. So there have been some things that have thrown off United's plans and his plans necessarily, but man management is a big thing. That's why Carlo gets the job done wherever he is typically. That's why, and if you don't have Ronaldo on side with the influence that he has, you cannot fucking succeed. It just will not happen. And you have to manage that. You have to recognize that. He's been around the game long enough to know that.
Melissa, I'd like it noted. I would very, very much like this noted. For the first time in the history of football, an Arsenal supporter is defending Manchester United's players. Let's go ahead and mark that one down because that'll never fucking happen again.
Let me tell you something. It's a shit show. Don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying said shit show. It's amazing. I'm having a great time over here watching this happen. But there's a reason for it. And if they're not going to acknowledge that reason, that's partially what got them in this fucking situation.
Right. And the thing that's been the constant isn't the manager, it's the fucking players. I still put it fully on the players. At some point, you have to be a fucking professional and do your fucking job. And none of them seem to want to. Is it not being a professional to do what your manager asks you to do? I think they've hired the wrong people. I think it's
Ed Woodward's issue. It's his fault. He has hired the wrong coaches. They are not coaches that inspire attacking, free-flowing, good football.
Well,
They're not coaches that inspire counter-attacking, shitty football, but, we catch them on the break and win every game 2-1.
Ed Woodward also hired and bought a bunch of self-centered, self-absorbed fucking crybabies for players that are there to take the fucking money, that love making fucking $500,000 a fucking week. That's what he also did. That's also the mark that he left on the club as he is now
so
retired.
it's Paul Pogba is the problem, yes, because Ed Woodward was a marketer, not a football guy.
And Bruno
That's the
Fernandes
problem.
is more focused on complaining to the refs the entire game than he is on doing his fucking job. When he does his job, he does it pretty fucking well.
Fucked up. I think he was one of the biggest losers when Ronaldo came in because he was no longer the main man. When he was the main man, he was pulling the strings. He was playing fine.
Right. We've spent way too much time talking about a fucking
But I
team
also,
that's a
real
fucking
quick,
disaster.
I do want to mention,
Yeah.
if you're sad about Newcastle potentially not being a banter club anymore, you now have another United to look to.
Yes, very good.
Don't worry about it.
All right, let's do these. Let's try to get these last four done here. Big result for the Bees. Big result for the Bees getting that draw. I mean, that's a team that honestly, I mean, I feel like Palace is going to feel like this is a missed chance. Hell, this week was missed chances for Palace. You want to be in the top 10, you can't have two draws. You have to have two wins against teams in the bottom half of the table.
Yeah. This game overall was a bit disappointing. There was a total of 15 shots, but just 5 on target. And the way both teams are playing relative to the entire season, I expected there to be goals in this game. And it bitterly disappointed me. Completely flattered to deceive. And there's a good chance now, I think, that these last two games especially, Brentford had a good opportunity to get themselves out of it for good.
Yeah.
But I think they're now starting to firmly put themselves in the conversation for relegation.
Yeah, agreed. Brighton and Watford, very tidy win for the Seagulls. Score win in the first half, score win in the second half. How you doing? Let's call it a day. Doesn't matter that Roy the Boy's there. I don't see Watford getting many more results. Even when they get their guys back healthy, they get their big guys back.
Well, they did. I mean, Emmanuel Dennis was there.
Yeah, and Sarr, I believe, was on the bench.
Yeah, Ben Foster dug Watford out a couple times as well. Made a few very good saves in this game. But Watford did hold them off until the 44th minute. It took a moment of brilliance. I don't think Mopé meant to do that, personally.
All right.
It was a great finish. It worked. It looked pretty for the cameras. I don't think that's what he intended. I think he was trying to go to the complete opposite corner on the floor and miskicked. It happened to go in. But
Sure, that's not
just
your less pay-colored glasses you're wearing there?
Might be.
Yeah.
But I don't think he meant that shit. And then Adam Webster finished it off, obviously, in the 83rd minute at the second time of asking. Now, all of that's great. Tariq Lamptey, great game as well, as usual. Just completely running it from kind of right wing back position.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, maybe left wing back position in this game because I think Cucurella was on the right. Anyway, besides that, this is very cute. Mel will appreciate this one, even if she can't or declines to comment on it. Graham Potter, after the game, said that why'd you wear a suit, Graham? You normally are, one of the tracksuit managers, they call him. Well, I wanted to show some respect for Roy Hodgson.
Oh.
So he pulled the suit out. And that jacket, by the way, I'm a sucker for a good jacket.
Yeah.
That coat he had on, fucking sexy.
Yeah, good job. Good job.
I'm into that. That was brilliant.
Wolves dominate and Spurs are fading. 3 losses in a row for Conte. First time in the Premier League and first time in, I believe, 12 seasons as a head coach. He's lost 3 in a row.
I couldn't tell what water on his face was tears or rain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a joy to watch.
I'm just wondering when he's going to skull fuck Harry Kane just in front of everybody, just to assert his dominance, just to be like, all right, I need to let everybody know who's in charge here.
Yeah, well, you know what I think is going to happen. Honestly, I think he came into the training room, into the dressing room this morning at the training center, and just walked in, gave everybody a stare so that, kind of all stood up, got quiet, whatever, one sock on. He's, oh shit, the manager's here. Then he just walked over to Harry Kane and fucking punched him in the dick. Then
Nice.
said "Vafanculo" and fucked off out of there. You know what I mean?
I mean, hell, I almost killed producer Mel there apparently with my last line. Poor thing over there. She choked to death, it seemed like. I mean, I'm sorry, darling. I'm supposed to take your breath away in other ways, not by telling
it
funny
is
jokes.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
The 4 minutes or so it took Wolves to score those 2 goals. And it just, Spurs were shell shocked after that. And most of it really, and Hugo Lloris, he has it in him. Both of them kind of started with mistakes by him,
Yeah.
to be completely honest.
The-
But later on, he had 2 world-class saves.
I will say that first goal with Jimenez, like the commentators were very just all up in Lloris. It's all Lloris's fault. He did happen to make 2 saves. His whole defense kind of just watched him make 2 saves and then watched Jimenez take it off his chest and put it like in the back of the net. There were 4 Spurs players right there in between the pipes just going, oh, whoa, hey, shit, goal. He just kind of watched it. I'm like, well, what's a goalie supposed to do if y'all are just going to stand around and fucking, beat on your bud? I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, no
Your defenders defend something. It's not that hard. Oh, my God.
Now, I do want a quick mention, though, for Rodrigo Bentancur, who, much like Thiago at Liverpool, phenomenal first touch.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing looks rushed. He doesn't even look like he's breaking a sweat. Everything is just cool, calm, fucking collected. And I believe he was one of the ones that came from Juventus, one of Conte's players he signed there a couple years ago.
Yeah, it is.
And he just screaming at people on the field like, what in the fuck are you doing? Just take a deep breath. What are you doing? But he was a moment of kind of clarity, I think, for Spurs, and he looks like he actually gives a shit. The other quick mention, and I never thought I'd ever say this again after maybe the first season we did the show, Spurs actually look like they missed Eric Dyer in defense.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, it's, David Sanchez fucked it off a few times there in the back, and they just didn't look great. I'm more interested to see. This is one of those teams, their off season. I'm very interested to see how it turns out, because I feel like Conte needs to put his stamp on it, and we may have finally reached the point now where the Spurs team of the last 5-6 years, it's probably about time to dismantle that experiment. You already see Ali gone.
You have to imagine Harry Kane's gone in the summer.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if Conte remains manager, you have to think that Harry Kane's gone.
Yeah.
Because Conte's not going to put up with it.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be one of the best players in the world. And really, the way he's playing right now, if I was a bookie, I would probably add a couple of digits to the front of England's betting for the World Cup.
Yeah.
That's it. You go from a 6-1, maybe kind of pseudo favorite, to 14-15-1, like outside shot.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if Harry Kane's not doing it for England, what dominant English forward is there? Truly dominant English forward. No one.
There's some good young talent in people like Watkins and Calvert-Lewin, but There's not a dominant point man. And
Nope.
and England, the way Southgate has built that team is built off of Harry Kane being the dominant man up front. All of it thrives off of him. Even if he's not scoring the goals, he creates the space to score the goal. You're very right.
And there's nothing that suggests Gareth Southgate knows how to play a false nine. So you have a front three, say, of Foden, Grealish, and Sterling, which they're all very familiar with each other. They all could get on very well, but there's nothing that suggests that he knows how to set up the rest of the team to allow that to thrive.
Right.
Because he's never done it before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the three of them can't be a point man by themselves, individually. So it would have to be an entire system change to be a false nine kind of Pep Guardiola style. And I don't think he has, honestly, I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good man manager. I think he has a system and that. But we've seen him with an inability to change that system from time to time, or being too slow to react. Maybe be a better, a fairer assessment. And he always has a point forward. There's always a point man. There's nothing to say that he actually can play a false nine, or set up a false nine rather properly.
Do you think Spurs can write this and still be in the talk for for Champions League?
I hope they're in the talk for the championship. That'd be great.
I hear you.
Can they write it? Yes, because they have one of the best managers in the world. Absolutely, they could. But it's going to take every single one of them buying into it, and I don't know that they are.
Excellent. Well, let's get on to the final match. Kind of an ugly match, but it was still really fucking entertaining to watch, and we thought it would be. All first half was all West Ham, and they should have probably put more on the board than the one. But second half, Rodgers talked to the boys, and he woke the Foxes up, and they ended up getting 2 and seemed to be well on their way to winning it until right at the death when West Ham finally evened it all up.
So they were at home, Leicester. I want to point that out.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure who forgot to bring the shooting boots from the training ground, but Leicester didn't have any of them on. The only 2 shots on target they scored from. Everything else, and one of those shots, by the way, was a penalty, and the other shot was a header, not even with the feet. Because everything they shot with their feet was fucking trash.
Yeah.
Rosed, fucking half the time might have been out of the park, but they couldn't pan the fucking camera up that high to see it. It was absolutely atrocious in front of goal from them. But West Ham opened up the scoring, Route 1 stuff. Issa Diop, what a ball first time from the center of defense. To fly that out to Jared Bowen, who got him behind. And I said this before earlier when we were talking about the table. Leicester are playing such a high line, and they do not have the personnel to do it. Nobody has recovery speed in that back line, minus Ricardo Pereira, who just came back fit.
Right.
And who pushes up, right? I mean, he's a wing back, essentially.
Yep.
So Soyuncu's going to chase somebody back? Johnny Evans going to chase somebody back? No. Fuck no.
Marty,
So Jared Bowen gets in behind. And, it was a sprint, but they weren't making up any ground on him. They didn't really put any pressure on him. And he was able to slot home brilliantly. And then he obviously came to the rescue later on, again with a brilliant corner. Leicester's 14th piece conceded this season. By far the most in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tell you what, one final thought here, and then let's go into the rest of to talk about our bets and all the good shit. Something worth mentioning with Leicester is if Leicester keeps this shit up, I said at the start of the season, a really good team is going to find itself in 13th place. That team may very well be Leicester.
Sure money.
Okay, so this is the moment of the show when we do our bets, our betting ideas, and place our bets to help better inform you to make your bet in a segment we call Sure Money. I'm down $807 for the entirety of the season so far. So it is time to get my head on my ass, but I will concede to you, good sir, so you can go ahead and gloat for a moment.
No gloating. No gloating. The dream is over, Sam. No. Pat hit. Oh, did Pat hit?
Oh.
Pat hit big. The dream is over. The Reds won, but I lost. So we got to end that bit for now. I am now down $1,074.
Big Sam's Lock of the Week.
I know you like long numbers, Sam, so 19.230769% of the time it
Love
works.
that it ends in a 69.
100% of the time. And I need to feed my couple losers here real quick. It's been a while since doing this. Fuck you, Liverpool. And then allow it to be said right now, Mr. Graham, admin, not my strong suit. And I give you the hardest time about this when you're sitting in studio before the show making a bet. Guess what Houston didn't do? I'm looking down at my notes.
You didn't write your bet down.
I was too busy writing Kitty's bit, which is fucking brilliant, by the way. Brilliant. Gold, Jerry. Gold. But, Mr. Graham, why don't you go ahead and tell us about Pat while I decide what my bet's going to be?
Jesus
And
Christ.
now,
Short.
time for our degenerate gambling friend Pat's Pick of the Week.
I'll just remind you, Sam, that this thing is called Sure Money. Okay? Fucking idiot.
Short money.
So Pat says, I'll let him pick up the story here. Well, I'm up big time, $567. And man, do I have a Super Bowl hangover. Sorry, big game hangover. So for this upcoming week, I'm just doing one bet. I don't want to get crazy. So I'll put $167 on the Wolves to beat Leicester at minus half a goal. It's plus 120, and I'll net $200. I'll hopefully talk next week. I'll be coming back from Myrtle Beach on a golf trip, so you guys have a great week.
You forgot the big one, Sam, to mention. What's the title of his email?
Oh, Winning Tiger Blood 2.
Winning with the tiger emoji and the blood emoji. Pretty fucking brilliant.
That's funny. That's pretty good. All right, so while you're continuing, I'll just go ahead and do mine real quick as well. Like I said, it's time to get my head out of my ass. I'm down $107. So I have a three-way parlay that I will probably end up playing, actually, for real. Everton to beat Southampton, because I think you guys are on a tear and you're being really fun right now.
Fuck yeah.
And you're going to ride that wave. So Everton to beat Southampton, Villa to beat Watford, because Watford are trash. And they're going to Steven Gerrard won't let them dip again after what happened against Newcastle. And then Arsenal to beat Brentford, because I think Brentford are in a bad way. And the Gunners are going to look to kind of steady the ship after everything that's been going wrong over the last few weeks. And they actually afforded me, and this is why I might go bet this live. There's odds to this, plus 687.
Mel, we're both going to lose our games this weekend. You know that, right? He'll win his, and we'll both fucking lose.
I mean, Geckel's still pissed off, I bet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Geckel, when he said he had texted me and said, oh, Graham's betting, put you in the bet, we're definitely losing. Oh, Graham's going to the casino to put money on it, we're getting fucking killed. Is exactly what he texted me. Also, real quick, I finally got my bet, Sam. This is what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go ahead and ride a little bit of your bandwagon, and hopefully it fucks you over. Arsenal to win with Saka to score at any time at plus 299.
All right, there you go.
There you go. So that's what I will go with. Look at me getting it done on the fly. That was a shit segment, and it's mostly my fault. I will completely admit to that. Because, hopefully Sam now appreciates how just maddening it is to see him before the show, 5 minutes before the show, frantically going through his phone to decide what his bet's going to be. I hope that hurt you as much as it hurts me to see you do that every time.
Here's the key to that. That's before the show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what we got? We got a fucking chicken.
So Kitty is on a roll and now sits at 13-8. So this week I gave Kitty Manchester City hosting Tottenham. Now Kitty quickly showed me a photo of her hanging out with hip hop legend Ice Cube.
Yeah.
Wow. Hip hop legend Ice Cube in the VIP lounge at the SoFi Stadium for the halftime show at the big game last night. And not only is Ice Cube proud of his mark on hip hop, but he's also a diehard citizen. So looks like he's taking Man City to win.
I'm just trying to figure out, Graham, how did Kitty fly out to LA, be in the VIP lounge for the halftime show, watching all of those legends out there doing their thing, and then get on a red eye and fly back here to be here in the morning when Mel let her out of the crate,
Out of the coop?
out of the coop?
I will say, she wasn't the first one out, and I did notice she has been up there on the perch most of today sleeping, so I have a feeling she's been nappy.
Sam, one last thought. You know, hip hop stars, they love them chicken heads.
No.
That's
No.
you made me call.
Foul. That's a foul remark.
Okay, heard.
That's brilliant. That's fucking funny.
It's foul about my foul.
Okay, very good.
And you know what you should do?
What should we do?
First of all, stop making bad jokes. Second of all, gamble legally. And third of all, gamble responsibly. And fourth, quit giggling.
Championship corner!
I've fallen and I can't get up. Oh no!
It was brilliant, wasn't it,
All right.
Graham? It was
fantastic.
solid.
That was pretty good. All right, so we had a pretty wild weekend, to be honest. Huddersfield and Sheffield United drew 0-0. Barnsley beat QPR 1-0. Fulham just 1-0 over Hull, disappointing. Bournemouth 2-1 over Blackpool. Middlesbrough took it to Derby 4-1, which is disappointing again.
They had been on a
I really
roll
want to
too.
see that happen. Yeah. Stoke and Nottingham Forest drew 2-2, something both Leicester nor Arsenal could do. But fucking Stoke did it. Which is annoying. And then Coventry 3-2 over Reading on Saturday. Bristol City lost to Swansea 3-1 on Sunday, which could end up with playoff implications. And West Brom and Blackburn shared the spoils in a 0-0 draw. So that leaves us with Fulham tops on 64 points, even on games with Bournemouth on 58 points, so a full 6 points back. Blackburn still in third place on 54, QPR on 52, but they do have 2 games in hand on Blackburn. Huddersfield in fifth on 32 games on 50 points. Middlesbrough on 30 with 49 points and sixth, rounding out the playoff places. But Forest now on 47 points and with 31 games played. So the teams in front of them do have a game in hand, but they could go level on points with Huddersfield should they win it. In eighth is West Brom on 46 points. Seem like they're starting to fall away a little bit. That's not good from them. And Sheffield United are in ninth, also on 46 points. So still putting themselves in the conversation. Luton on 45 points in 10th, and Preston North End also on 45. So really the playoff picture could go up to and include 13th Stoke City on 43, where
Wow.
Middlesbrough is only on 49. And with games in hand and various things going on in that league, and really, you know, there's 60 games left now or so. You have a situation where, I mean, really, you can go all the way back to Millwall, to be honest with you, on 40 points, and argue that there is a possibility that they're potentially in the picture. So I think Fulham's probably going to wrap it up over the next 12 out of those 60 games,
Yeah.
and get promoted automatically. You would have to think Bournemouth or Blackburn is going to be thereabouts for that second spot. The other is going to finish in third, I'd imagine. But you can make an argument really from fifth place on 50 points, Huddersfield, all the way down to, like I said, 15th Millwall on 40 points. That 10-point gap can very quickly be closed, and any one of those teams has a possibility of finishing in a playoff position and a chance to go up to the big time. Derby on 31 games now, so Reading do have a game in hand. Cardiff have a game in hand on 32. Cardiff on 32 points. I'm sorry, Reading on 22 points. So Cardiff essentially is safe, I'd probably imagine. Peterborough on 29 games on 20 points. That's going to be tough. They are shit, so there's a good chance that those two games in hand are not going to be winnable for them. Derby on 18 points, though, so they are within 4 points of Reading now. So 2 results go their way. Derby could climb out of the fucking relegation zone.
Very good. More of an existential question here, Sam, but is Millwall ever really, really in the picture?
No.
Exactly. That's going to wrap it up, boys.
I mean, unless it's a bar fight, no.
That's going to wrap it up, boys and girls. Sammy, any parting words?
Yes, there is a little bit of banter club left in Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
As an application to the Council of Tyneside was brought to light that they would like to relocate a public statue that they own that is not on their property. So the statue of Alan Shearer was built and installed not on grounds that they own.
Really?
So they had to put in an application to move the statue onto their property.
Onto their grounds, onto their property.
So the banter club is not gone yet.
Heard. Still a little dumpster fire. The embers are still glowing, just a little.
Is still there. Also, in other news from Newcastle United, just briefly, very briefly, part of what made them a banter club to begin with, and those of you that are familiar with Newcastle United will know Kevin Keegan and some of the shit that he gets up to. Valentine's Day is also his birthday. So happy birthday, Keggy.
Ah, very good. Very, very good. And remember, as always, Mikel Antonio loves you more with his willy than his heart because it's much bigger. It's going to wrap it up, boys and girls. Next up is Injury Time, where we go over the beers we're drinking. And by the way, producer Mel on the DL means one Mr. Houston is drinking craft beer tonight. What is this upside-down world we live in? Good Lord. So you're going to have to listen to me.
I can't wait for that review.
Review beer.
What?
Yes.
You can find Injury Time at patreon.com/DUFootballShow for just $5 a month. And for your first $5 that you're going to get on Thursday when Injury Time comes out, you're going to get Houston going, this isn't Ice House.
You know, I couldn't have said it better myself. There's lots of other stuff we talk about, and I don't mind you cutting me off that time. Till next week, everybody.
Nighty-night.